I don't know. What is up, y'all? It's been a minute, and like I just mentioned, of the many things I don't know, one of them is where I want to take this channel and what I want to do with videos into the future, if I even want to keep doing them. However, I do want to experiment, and I did want to at least try something, keep it real, have some fun, do something new here. And I felt like that was the perfect opportunity to just share exactly where I'm at, because the space of not knowing is actually something that I find extremely powerful and extremely valuable. And it's something that I think is worth kind of zooming in on real quick for this video, which is going to be shorter than pretty much anything we've ever put out other than the clips on this channel. So I'm excited to shift things up and mix it up. Why do I think I don't know is powerful? Well, the unknown is utterly and infinitely limitless. When you think about that, you kind of understand, yeah, everything that is known is only now and ever will be really a tiny little fraction of what is unknown. You know, it's the tip of the iceberg is what is known at best. And often it's more like you're just scratching the surface of the iceberg that's above the surface of the ocean, whereas the actual unknown and what could be known is the whole iceberg, or maybe even the whole ocean. So it's powerful because if you orient towards the unknown and you orient towards what you don't know, which is not it's not like it's my idea or anything, but it is something that I feel like somewhat successfully reprogrammed for myself. And it was reprogramming because in the culture that I grew up in, what is known is really what people orient towards, or at least what you're conditioned and kind of told to orient towards. But it's very limiting, like I just said, because what is known is always finite, and it is narrowing in its process, and it excludes, and it sort of just echoes, I would say, because when you're known and what you're orienting towards what's known, then you really want to naturally gravitate towards people that basically also know the same things, or are orienting towards those same knowns. And again, it excludes because it's closing the door on people that think differently or things outside of what you know. And again, it's powerful because when you orient towards the unknown, you automatically invite connection and include anything that enters your realm, because it's all unknown. So it's a receptive state more. And paradoxically, I would say it is the prerequisite to knowing anyways. So the way you invite that intelligence and knowing in is by not knowing. Or maybe you could say you know that you don't know. That's maybe the best and most valuable thing that you could know, because then you can continue to call in more knowing, because you're living in the question, and you are living in the question by not knowing. And so, with this channel and I'm able to live in this sort of adventure of like, where's this going to take me? And what's this video going to do? And yeah, I have my reasons going into it. However, I understand after, again, thinking about this some more, and also just living more and more of my time in recognition of what I don't know, that the real purposes of this video are going to slowly potentially be revealed over time. And in hindsight, again, it's 2020, as they say. So yeah, hopefully I've made that point. It's the prerequisite, it's the foundation to all knowing is not knowing. And it's kind of funny because knowing really gets in the way of our not knowing, which then prevents our knowing. So it's a weird kind of strange loop, but there it is for you. And I also think it's really valuable, especially kind of at this time, and at least for me, in my, where I'm at right now, because again, it opens this dialogue, which for the times can also open maybe some connection and healing across these polarizing topics and communities. And at the same time, it provides a sort of defense, because being comfortable in the space of unknown or not knowing, or just really recognizing what you truly don't know, which is no small task. It's potentially anxiety inducing for people. So, be careful, because once you start pulling on this thread, if you're really honest and genuine about pulling on it, you'll find, or I found at least, and I think most people who take a thorough look at this and examine it with integrity will realize there is so much more unknown that you really maybe never have examined and thought of, and it's going to totally dissolve so much about your worldview and maybe your identity and stuff, as it did for me. But when you become comfortable in the space, again, it could induce some anxiety, it could be uncomfortable, and at the same time it relieves the anxiety that you may or may not be acknowledging, because you're not actually recognizing consciously what is unknown to you, but at some subconscious or some level you might actually understand, or your body might understand, that you don't know, and you might be dealing with that in ways that, again, you might not recognize in the ways that are more true, because you might be stuck in your knowing, and you might know why you're doing it, but as I did, eventually I figured out that there's some more subtle potential influences and patterns that I was inside that I couldn't recognize inside them, but now I can. Hopefully that makes sense. But yeah, like what I'm saying is, again, if you're not as anxious in that state, then you're less likely to be susceptible, I would say, to fear mongering and different types of marketing and propaganda that people sort of manipulate the people that are grasping for knowing in a world where they don't feel comfortable not knowing. So you might be getting pushed around and pulled around a little bit less as you develop your own comfort in the space of not knowing. And it allows you, again, the more you spend time there, to actually recognize some of that stuff and recognize some of the people that are really just posturing their knowing, but they actually, are able to get away with that. But again, when you invite in more knowing by not knowing, and again, I know that's somewhat of a paradox, you can see this more clearly, and it exposes some of that posturing. So yeah, it's an adventure as well. Like I said, it's where life is always happening, is in the unknown. And again, it's where the known really emerges. And it's how you generate real knowing, is by not knowing. And you sort of have to, again, it's not that you never know things, although to some degree you keep living in these questions. But the more you live in the question, again, the more you invite in more knowing. But that doesn't mean you switch into your knowing. It's really about a reorienting towards not knowing, rather than where most people, I think, live in the culture, like in America and a lot of Western culture, you could say, but also just where I was at, maybe just from a personal experience of trying to know and build up your knowing and tell the most known story, trying to pull all these pieces together and make the most detailed, high resolution projection about things. That can be extremely valuable, and it can be a huge trap if you get caught in that projection. So that's what we're talking about here. And again, like I mentioned, the last value I'll mention here is just like it dissolves some of these constructs and some of these assumptions. And as Morpheus would say, freeze your mind, son, or something like that. So this is definitely a bit of a different direction. And I would say that I wanted to make this video because, again, who knows exactly, but it's a big question. It's something I've lived in with a while, and I feel has been very valuable. And I've just gotten to a point now where I just want to encourage anyone who may be in it with me, or a little further, maybe I'm a little further down the road than you, to keep going on it, because it can be a bit of a struggle to live in that if you're taking an honest look at those questions. But again, I feel like it's some of the most valuable work to be done right now, and something I respect a lot about certain people that I see operating is their ability to truly live in these questions, and not just go along with a narrative of knowing. So I know that was pretty esoteric and weird and vague potentially, and maybe it made no sense. So hopefully it did make some. I'm certainly not the originator of this kind of thinking or anything. There's whole branches of philosophy like epistemology and ontology that you can explore, that I would probably do well to explore and learn more about this. There's a guy named Peter Ralston who wrote a book called The Book of Not Knowing, which I want to check out. You might have read it, or maybe you'll read it before I do. Check it out. Let me know. And yeah, like I said, this could be the last video I make on this channel, honestly. It could be the first of a whole series of new videos, and I'm not sure where we'll go. So I'm excited about that. I don't think it'll be anything like this video, whatever it goes, if it does keep going. But I invite you to join me in this exploration and in your own. And yeah, we'll see what's next. Peace.